I'd like to express my pleasure to see you all in our walls, in our premises here. Very glad that we can have such an event hosted by Orange. It's also somehow a demonstration of our commitment to open source. And maybe there is a point here which is to explain a bit why we are interested and why open source community in symmetrical way could be interested in our labs, our capabilities, and maybe also our services. So why do we invest in open source? Well, believe me, it's not for charity. This is nowhere near my objectives. This is about efficiency and quality. When I just look at, and it's not an act of faith, it's just observation. When I look at what is coming up on the software arena that matters to me as a business, could be infrastructure, could be middleware, could be operating tools. We observe today that what comes most sophisticated, what comes out most efficient, comes from open source, while traditional editor-based software usually comes with a distance of 2 to 3 years in terms of adopting the technologies, being efficient or equally automatized, etc., etc., etc. So if you look at it from an operator, it is kind of a rupture in mentality, but it is as well a no-brainer that open source brings a competitive edge. Now, let's be a little bit more specific. What was shaking quite some time ago the infrastructure world? Linux. Linux came, took its share amongst the OS, took a dominant share in time on servers, and became bread and butter. And I would have to say that if you go through the Orange operational teams, and you would ask them by default what they would put on the server, they would not really wonder. They would put Linux, and then we discuss. A little bit later in time, we went a little bit deeper in the value stack, and open source databases became serious alternative to Oracle, SQL Server, etc., etc. Now, I would say today, by default, my request to a team is explain me why you shouldn't be able to do it with Cassandra, MongoDB, MySQL, and why you would have to go to a licensed type of database, which, by the way, in most cases, may not offer the same level of scalability, performance, or efficiency. But this is, I would say, several unitary bits which, when you bring them together, can bring you a different edge. What we're looking forward into is a true revolution for operators. And obviously, I'm speaking about cloud. Because massive adoption of cloud inside an operator changes the game. It changes the game in terms of the way we operate. It changes the game in terms of our cost structure to serve our customers. And it changes the game in terms of skills that we need to mobilize in the organization to be able to operate. And it's like any other wave that this industry is accustomed to. Either you embrace the change or the change will slam you against the wall. So you'd rather embrace fast rather than be stuck on the wall. So the name of the game for Orange is how do we embrace the cloud change? And we deliberately chose OpenStack as our white horse in this transformation. OpenStack meaning we also decided not to embrace VMware, Link, etc., as our main choices. Why? Well, because everybody does. Which means that I will get a scale effect playing in my favor, similar to any other player, including the big OTTs which are picking in my business day after day. So typically, then you wonder, but why an operator is bothering about that, right? It's an OTT game. No, not at all. Can you imagine that when I have a discussion with Huawei, ZTE, Ericsson, Cisco, Juniper, whoever else, what do we discuss about? We discuss about, hello, sir, when do you stop selling me dedicated appliances and turn to a software editor that I will pick, choose, and deploy on my OpenStack grid? And how will I operate that? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we are speaking about a change which we embrace, which will shake the whole telecom industry, which is already shaking the whole IT industry. There is a shift of 2 years. And that's somewhere centered around OpenStack, which is, by the way, totally open source. This is part of the game. The other part of the game for an operator is once you have a software deployed on the grid, how do you run it? How do you make sure that a customer will get a service out of it? Then the point is, which are the operational tools available to us to play around? Guess what? Open source will provide. We had a very, very interesting opportunity to observe something which is rare in our telco industry, which is the birth of a brand new operator coming with no legacy, no company culture, no taboos. So they had to reinvent the stuff, right? From a completely white page. It's pretty rare. CloudWatt did it. That was pretty interesting because we are shareholders of CloudWatt, to observe how they would embrace that challenge and how they would tackle this. And they came to adopt a total open source culture, with our blessing, of course, and with our encouragement. They came to also embrace total DevOps approach, which, whether we like it or not, we will have to go into for the sake of efficiency, and because every tool coming from open source will push in that direction. So open source will not only bring us a competitive edge from a cost structure, will not only bring us a differentiation from a quality of the software perspective, it will also bring us a differentiation in terms of operating model. It will force us to evolve towards the operating model of DevOps and associated methodologies. But if you look then what happens when the software is live and what happens when customers are hooked on your solution, guess what? There is ample number of solutions, all of them open source, to operate. And if you look at what CloudWatt chose, they have selected a full range of open source solutions to be able to monitor what is happening on the infrastructure, to monitor what is happening on the customer application, to monitor whatever flows in and out, which may not be the right ones, detect, dynamically react, manage scalability, manage elasticity, et cetera, all of that totally open source. If you look at the cost structure versus a legacy way of managing telco business, there is a 1-to-3 ratio. Nobody in our industry can afford a 1-to-3 ratio, right? No one gonna survive in the telco legacy mode, and we gonna move towards that new way of working, because it's the only way for us to survive. So you can see that open source for us is a double-edged thing, right? On the one hand, it's a fantastic opportunity. It brings to us collective intelligence, collective efficiency. It brings to us the best technologies available in the market at a given moment in time. It's also, on the other hand, a threat if we are not flexible collectively enough to adopt fully the change that comes with. And the change that comes with is about collective way of working. Silos, nice hierarchical structure, all of that goes by. It cannot sustain in such a setup. Much more horizontal organizations, collaborative approach, sharing information, building up collective intelligence and collective efficiency, that's the way forward. DevOps, not that we like it or hate it, that's no point. There is simply no real other alternative. Going there will change tremendously the DNA of operators. Now, what will be left out of that? Interestingly, once you get in the virus expands, right? So why were I mentioning at the beginning our preferred industrial partners? Because the virus from OpenStack goes down in the network. Today, when you discuss about OpenStack, everybody has in mind that it started with a pool of academics who wondered how they would efficiently manage the university data center. It evolved. It evolved towards a completely comprehensive view of how you would manage whatever type of resource which remotely looks like an IT resource. And if you take a distant approach, well, a router is an IT resource, a network node is an IT resource, a service platform is a network, is an IT resource. So all of that, sooner or later, gonna get under the same type of management, gonna benefit from the same type of infrastructure middleware, and will get in the same management system. What am I saying? Am I saying that my business is changing? That I was managing on one hand data centers, platforms, services, on the other hand networks. All of that is grooming together. The same software which will manage the network layer inside the data center will manage my network. The same management system will be used to operate both data center and networks. And I will get a different way of delivering services and value to my customers by having one global operating system across all of these resources. Looks like I've smoked a little bit too much of this carpet, but that is actually coming. And that is actually coming faster than anybody expected, thanks to the collaborative efficiency around open source. So interesting to see that we started with open source like a way to get a cheaper server, Linux, up to the point that now it totally rocks the company and our business model. And it will force us to evolve at the same time as offering us tremendous opportunity to revive our business model, to compete differently against OTTs, but also definitely to embrace an IT change deep into the network. So open source is all of that, and obviously much, much more, but from our telco perspective, it is a fantastic opportunity. Now, in case you have any question, more than happy to answer. I guess I'm not yet exceeding my time, so feel free.